Time is now 6 o'clock. I call this meeting of the Godley Independent School District to order. Let the record show we have a quorum of board members present. The meeting has been duly called, and then notice that the meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Opens Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. This time, if I could ask Mr. Frazier to offer the invocation.
Before Mr. Frazier starts, I would ask everyone also to keep the family of Mr. Jim Cockrell in your prayers as well. They had a tragedy that happened last Friday, so just ask everyone to keep them in your prayers.
Let's pray. Dear Lord, I come to you humbly asking for a special prayer of blessing for the family of Jim Cockrell and their family situation. I ask that you wrap your arms around them and heal them, comfort them, guide them, provide your miraculous blessings to them as only you're able to do. And Lord, I just ask for peace for that family and for all those friends and those loved ones that know that family. And Lord, as we continue through this meeting, I ask for your wisdom and your knowledge and your understanding for these board members who have given up their time to come. And I ask that you help all decisions be made in accordance with your will and in the best interest of students, dear Lord. And we're so grateful for this rain that we are receiving right now, and I ask that you continue to bless us with that rain. And Lord, we're most thankful for your Son, Jesus Christ, and his sacrifice so that we can have a home with you in heaven one day. And it's in Christ's holy and precious name that I pray. Amen.
Thank you, sir. And also next is our pledges. And Mr. Frazier, if you could help us with that, sir.
Yes, sir. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now for the Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier. Next we have superintendent reports. Dr. Deere?
All right, we're going to start off with construction update. Caleb, we missed you last time, so come tell us what's going on.
Yes, apologize for missing the last event at a family emergency, so I appreciate your patience on that. We are coming to a close on this project, at least on this phase. It's going well. We've got our punch list down to 13 items as of today, and we've got an ancillary list that Nikki and Rich are helping us develop that are all the concerns, maintenance issues, little adjustments that are needed that are outside of the contractual punch list item that was originally 400 items, and we've got that down to 68 as of this morning. We're seeing on average per day, we're getting about 13 to 14 items done on things that we can control. So S&P has invested our internal labor, and we've also brought on one of our executives from Houston, who's a general superintendent with us down there. We've brought him up to help oversee the day-to-day field operations. I'm also still here a couple of days a week helping him, but he's been a great value add, bringing more resources in from Houston and continuing to make sure that we're getting the services we need for y'all. So, and for this project, right? There's not a lot to cover. Our budgets are kind of coming to a close. We've got ample funds as far as what we can see right now to close out everything that's on the books, and we have some discussions on a couple of last remaining items that we're trying to address and figure out how we can make all those things happen and make sure that we've got a complete facility. So we've got about 4 what I would consider major items that are still concerning to us. We're actively working through those. One is the glass partition walls on the CTE side. We have some adjustment issues with those. We've had some parts and pieces that we've ordered from out of the country to replace some of the mechanics that weren't built appropriately in the factory. We've got those parts now, so we're going to be able to make those corrections and finalize that scope of work. We've got some scratched glass that's been a concern for some time. We're analyzing the reports that we've received from both the glass manufacturers, the installers, and some third party. I'm waiting for the third party reports so that we can kind of finalize that estimate and figure out where the blame really truly lies and how we can resolve that issue. And then we've got a field drainage issue right now on the track. And so what we're doing as far as the first step is to analyze everything that we've installed on the S&P side as part of this contract. We're doing video surveillance and correct as-builts to make sure that we've got everything installed at the right elevation per the design and that there's no obstructions in the line as a baseline. And then once we get that information, we're working with Huckabee and design team to come up with remediation. So those are the big issues that we're tracking currently. There's one other one that's on our list that's not really a major issue. It's something we're resolving, but if you notice around the volleyball sleeves in the arena, there's a slight cupping of the wood in those areas. There was some over-poured grout when the volleyball sleeves were installed. So we're chipping that grout back. We're letting that wood settle back down. If it doesn't, we have a plan on how we're going to address that and make that final correction, so for a final condition. But I yield to y'all for questions, and I haven't been up here for a couple of months, so it's been a lot going on.
Hi.
Hi.
I'll go first.
Okay.
This is a general question, and I don't know, like our administration, and they might kind of help us answer this. So as we come to a close and we're moving more towards the warranty side, am I right that we're gonna move more towards warranty?
Yes.
So when things come up, what kind of system are we gonna have in place so that we can address those items, like once there's not somebody here, we can address those items as they come up quickly and effectively, and for how long are we gonna have warranty in place? Like, I noticed that the G-claw on the side of the CTE building, the claws are not on, and that's, I mean, that's probably gonna be on a warranty list because it was correct in the first place. So can you walk me through how that process works when those things happen? Because that has been a major concern of mine, because we've had so many people in and off the job site and so many different managers here. And so I'm concerned that there might come a day when something very large rears its ugly head and we're gonna have to have that fixed, and I don't want that cost to fall on the district because of negligence from a subcontractor, 9 months prior.
Yeah, no, it's a
Okay.
great question, and it's an important fact. First off, yes, we are moving into the warranty phase. What's convenient, and one of the benefits I mentioned at the last board meeting I was able to speak to, was with our extended presence, I like to look at pull positive items out of that. One of them is that we're here. So while we're here on site, we're being able to address a lot of those warranty issues. We haven't been following the formal warranty process because of our presence on site. Yes, we do have a warranty system at S&P. We've distributed that to Nikki and team as far as an email that it goes out. It notifies me as the project executive. That doesn't go away for the whole warranty period of the project. And we will actively chase down those warranty issues expeditiously for sure. Yes, the G-claw is already on that, right? Even though we were here, we hit them up and they said it's on the warranty. That company specifically struggled a little bit on getting people out here regularly, but we're working on them and driving them. I sent them 3 emails today. We will get it resolved because it's driving me nuts. The other good part of this, from the district's perspective, I think, is that because our substantial completion date did push quite a bit, the warranty period didn't start until October 29th. When we got our final substantial letter of completion. So when we finally turned over the entirety of the project to acceptance by Huckabee, that's when our warranty period starts. So from that point, you have a year for the building, and then there's extended warranties for specific systems throughout there. I don't have them all memorized, apologize, but there's 5 years on the roof and other areas where there's extended warranties. I'm also very concerned about some of those things too. Things like the glass partitions. The reason that we ordered all new parts from Portugal was because we found out there was 2 different manufacturing products from the factory where they had created an engineered solution for this part that was failing all over the country or wherever they were installing them. And I requested that we get all of the new product. I'm not going to accept a product that, let's just say, Godley doesn't use for a year and then we're past the warranty and then you go to open them up and we have more gear snapping. So I said, no, we're going to either extend the warranty for these walls for 5 years, or we're going to replace all those parts with this new engineered solution so that we aren't leaving a product that isn't going to operate effectively. Another example of that, from my perspective, is the ice maker in the storage room down there in Area F. We had a missing drain, a drain that was apparently before I was out here that we couldn't get installed in the floor because of some plumbing issues. And so we reverted to a pump system that's an electronic unit that collects the melted ice into this box and then it pumps it up into a drain that's available. Well, that's going to be an issue in the future. So what we did is we created a solution with Huckabee and ourselves. S&P invested the money at no cost to the district to cut that concrete slab up, create a grate in the floor so that we could have a static condition. So whenever that thing dumps water, it's going to go into the roof drain system and we won't have a long issue. Those kind of things I'm analyzing and looking at everywhere. Of course, we can't, find them all, but hopefully that answers your question. We are in the warranty phase. And we do have a really good system for it.
I have a question related to the Daktronics screen at the end of the football field.
Yes.
I have people in the community that are paid advertisers on that, and because of the inability for that to maneuver properly, for their advertising to be seen from the street, and it's my understanding that some of your contractors ran into that, and I was wondering, I didn't see that on the punch list, but if you know or have knowledge of what the status of getting that motor fixed in that.
Yes, thank you, because that was one of the items I was trying to pull out that was on our major issues. The good news for right now is that Spencer and team have released the Daktronics to make the repairs. So there is no more argument on getting it actually scheduled and repaired. So that's happening. I have yet to receive a date of when it's happening. It is one of the discussion points in our weekly OAC meetings on responsibility. We're not certainly saying it's not our fault, not our problem. I think there was some interesting invoicing from the company, Daktronics, where there was some re-engineering costs that kind of made the cost to replace the motor quite a bit more than it probably should have been. So we're kind of navigating that. Spencer's reaching out and asking for some better justification for pricing. But ultimately, the repair is scheduled. That will happen, and then this will be on our list until we bring it to resolution through the contract.
Any more questions?
Okay, thank you,
All right,
Caleb.
Thanks.
Okay, that's all for superintendent reports.
All right, thank you. Next is public participation. At this time, we extend the opportunity for a public participation portion of the meeting in compliance with Section 551.007 of the Texas Government Code. Public participation provides the general public the opportunity to address the board regarding topics listed on the agenda. Persons attending the meeting and wishing to participate have already filled out a form. Each individual addressing the board will have 3 minutes to make their presentation. Personal attacks on district employees by name or position or students are not allowed. All participants are expected to speak with respect and civility and maintain a calm professional demeanor. Upon expiration of the 3 minutes, I'll call the next person signed up to speak. So at this time, first up will be Mr. Peter Svensson. And the item on the agenda is 6G. And I believe you'll have the clock up on the screens for your timing there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, first message I have for you is going to be a little hard to give, but I spoke several times with Mr. Jim Cockrell before his passing. And he shared with me several conversations he's had. But he specifically asked me to thank, is it Mabry? Did I say it correct? And Miss Heiner, and Kayla Lane. When he saw the video of how you, especially you, Miss Heiner, spoke about him, and that you seconded it, and you all decided and gave him the votes, he was truly humbled and thankful that you saw the good in him. He was a good man, and we will all miss him sorely, but I promised him that I would relay that to you. And he, as an administrator himself, I'm not to divulge, I'll keep it to myself, but he and Dr. Deere had a wonderful conversation about things. Now, as you know, I would first of all suggest that you do away with these letters that you send out. it does you more harm than good. I went to a thing Tuesday night here at your Baptist church, a wonderful, wonderful program put on by these youth. And I don't think God meant for me not to meet a certain person. She explained to me that 8% of your student body left your schools to go to their school that they started. Now I want you to kind of take a self-inventory and ask yourself, why did these parents take those students out of your elementary, middle schools, and high school? There's something amiss here. Now, when you sent me a personal letter, none of you really know me, do you? But if you did, you would have never sent the letter. I wasn't mad when I got it. I wasn't hurt. I was hurt, yes, I was hurt. Because I've spent 50 years living in Cleveland doing nothing but good things. If you talk to the people that knew me, you would know that. And as I came to the meeting here, my attorney, who happens to be my mayor, who I've worked with and known me his whole life, knew who I was and what I stood for and what I've done. And it is the complete opposite of what you wrote in that letter. I implore you to do away with them, because it's not good. I will win, and I will go to all ends to clear my name, because I have a good name. Maybe not in Godley, Texas. My time is gone. I hope that you'll listen to what I said and take action. Thank you.
So, Mr. Svensson,
Yes.
thank you for your comments. However, I do have to say this. I extended you great latitude. There wasn't anything that you spoke of here tonight that is on the agenda 6G. 6G is totally
I'm
different.
sorry. I thought the agenda was
item, it is very clear. On this list, it calls it out. You're going to speak on a topic on the agenda.
Well, I
Okay,
apologize, sir.
And then I also read that. So I'm only pointing it out.
Okay.
This will be an example. I gave you extreme latitude this go around.
Thank you.
Okay.
But I was
Next
thinking,
time around, I will
let me
call a
just say
stop to
this.
it.
I thought it was with respect tonight to sending out letters. Am I wrong?
No,
that's not on the
Your
agenda.
agenda item is 6G,
Well,
which is
maybe
on
I
District
signed
of
the wrong
Innovation.
one.
Okay.
Maybe I checked the wrong one.
Here's the form. Thank you,
Okay.
sir. Please understand my point.
Yeah.
All right, next up, we have Ms. Nova Olson. Again, agenda items 6G, 6C, 6A, 3, and 6B. So, quite an extension there. Ms. Olson? District of Innovation.
I think you need to give
So,
those to,
can you-
Faith.
Agenda item 6G, 6C, 6A3, and 6B Bravo. Thanks for your patience, trying to get ready. Who's operating our clock? Okay, go ahead, Ms. Olson.
So, item G says discuss and consider District of Innovation Amendment TEC 37.105. Is that what's in front of you, for those of you who have one?
That's the item on the agenda.
Okay. So that item talks about the subject, does it not, of ejecting or refusing entry and the process by which you record those items. Is that correct? Am I correct in understanding that's what your agenda item is related to?
The process associated there, yes.
Okay.
Continue.
So, retaining a record of verbal warnings. So I believe that Mr. Svensson was speaking specifically about letters, which this policy is specifically regarding. So let's be clear on that. So these changes, it says that these are burdensome, and so the following requirements will no longer be applicable. Maintaining a written log of verbal warnings, providing written notice of the appeal process at the time of ejection, internet posting of the requirements and appeal process, and the ability to appeal the decision to the Board of Trustees within 90 calendar days. Let me reread that. The following requirements will no longer be applicable. So you're removing your accountability, removing the notice of the rights to your constituents, and you're removing the tools for remedy. I don't understand that. Why would you remove those things for the people in this community? It makes me pretty sick right now. So, additionally, what I put before you is the policy that I printed off. I looked up this policy, the Texas Education 37.105. This policy is being misused in this case, because if you'll notice, sorry, I have it. I wanted to give you my copies. It says, if the person refuses to leave peaceably on request, and. So I'm not understanding why we're changing the policy by which you keep accountability, you give notice to people in your community, you help them to know what the policy and the process is. Why are we removing those? Why is that so burdensome? This is very disturbing that you would want to do that. That was time?
Time's up. Thank you, ma'am. All right, next up, Mr. Scott Olson. Agenda item 6G.
Thank you for giving me the time to speak. I just wanted to take a few minutes to address the board specifically, to remind you of the job that you were elected to do. You were elected not to do what the superintendent says or you yourself desire. You were elected to be the oversight board for the school district by your stakeholders. Your stakeholders are the parents of your students, and your larger population is the widespread membership within your ISD boundaries that pay GISD taxes. The superintendent and administration are designed to be your employees and accomplish the board direction, not the other way around. This authority and focus is not supposed to be dependent, delegated, or given over freely to the superintendent or the administration, mostly hired by the superintendent in this case, because it is easier or more timely. You are supposed to be the governing body of the ISD. You are not supposed to listen to the experts. The superintendent and CFO are not the experts. You are supposed to be doing your own research and learning to make sound decisions based on non-biased information for the benefit of your constituency, not listening blindly to the information that biased employees are providing, as they have their own agendas that typically do not align with your constituents. This job that you have been elected for does not include finding suspect ways to modify your policies to silence or even restrict your constituents' voice in any way. Yet you allow your current policies to do so. Along with, I would even say, joking about it by asking amongst yourselves, did we violate anybody's rights today? If you are restricting speech, then the answer is yes. The Brevard County ruling in October of 24 for the U.S. Court of Appeals stated that these blanket and subjective policies limiting free speech by school boards during school board meetings, which are supposed to be focused on hearing from your constituents, do not have the right to limit the same speech just because it does not agree with your stance of the discussion or because of verbal attacks or swearing. Judge Grant stated that these policies are constitutionally problematic because it enables the shutdown of speakers whenever the board members perceive offense, which is unconstitutional. That's a quote. In addition, he quoted by saying, if the only ideas that can be communicated are views that the board already finds acceptable, then why have the school board meetings in the first place? Again, a quote, to be sure, sometimes meetings can get tense. No one enjoys being called out negatively, and some may even dislike public praise, Grant said. Quote, but that is the price of admission under the First Amendment, which your own superintendent invoked when asked if he had broken the law just recently, in fact. Thank you for your time.
All right, next we will move into business items, considering the consent agenda. Any questions on the consent agenda? If not, I'll consider a motion.
I motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Have a motion by Terry and a second by Marissa.
I have a few questions.
About
May
the,
I ask them now or?
now's the time. I was about to ask, are there any further questions?
Okay, thank you. This would be for Spencer. On the financial report, I noticed that there is a $104,859 deficit in our interest and seeking fund. It looks to me like our debt payments are more than our tax revenue. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. So as we've talked about before, this is built in to our debt payment structure. And so this was anticipated like it was last year and like it was this year. And so, yes, that is the stance, but it was well built within our financial advisor and the plan to issue those bonds.
Do we have a plan in the future to remedy this, to make sure that our tax revenue is not in a deficit for what our payments are?
So again, the plan was that we have significant growth in our community, and so as the community grows, therefore the tax revenue to pay back the bonds also grows. And so I believe it is either next year or the year after that we will then see the payments not being in a deficit. And again, that was because we needed the facilities beforehand, and so that's why the bonds were issued.
And then my next question.
Before we move off of that, Spencer, correct me though, I believe this was exactly the plan that you had outlined several months ago when we were discussing the budget. Is
That's
it not?
correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
And my next question is for the budget amendment. The football playoff revenue, I just want to make sure I was understanding your notes correctly. We brought in $32,000 for renting our facilities for playoffs, but after expenditures, we only profited $2,000. In my opinion, this small net gain doesn't seem worth the extra wear and tear on facilities.
So specifically, I'm looking into the costs associated with how much it is to rent the property and then have the ability for our staff to earn additional money that they wouldn't have been able to receive prior. Also, with that, it allows us to do other things that we weren't able to do prior. And so there's some money that is in the revenue that we are utilizing to do other things. So it's not necessarily a net $2,000 gain. It's much more than that. We're just utilizing some of that revenue to do some other things within the district.
Okay, thank you. And that's it. Thanks.
Okay. Any further questions? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. All right, and next is, I believe, an info only. It's on consideration of, consideration of approval of property renovation.
Yes, sir. You guys approved the purchase of the house on Pearson Street right there in front of RBG. Spencer and the team took a good long look at it and came up with some ideas. If we were to choose to use it for office space, which is one of the options, we just wanted to share some of those ideas, just to keep you guys in the loop. This is information only, no action, no decisions been made. These are just ideas, and we will present to you at a future date some more information.
I had a quick question related to the fact that if we renovate that building for office use, I know we would be moving some office staff from Legacy.
Yeah, I'm not mentioning that because as soon as you mention that, then people start getting real worried that they're the next ones moving. So it's
Oh.
just general office staff, but legacy
General
would be-
office staff.
yes,
I mean, yeah, but, I mean, it's my understanding we would free up classroom
yes,
space.
yes, free up classroom space.
So my
yes,
question
ma'am.
would be, how many students could we accommodate moving general office staff to accommodate students? I mean, how much space are they taking up? Do you
So
know?
I think just quickly, some of the plans they went
Just
through.
an idea.
Yeah, you guys freed up 4 or 5 classrooms, didn't you?
That's correct. So 4 regular sized classrooms and then 1 significantly larger classroom potentially.
So about 100 kids?
Potentially.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
I have a question on that as well. So I know we approved the purchase. Is that house operational? Can we use it for staff in the meantime before a renovation is done?
So whatever we decide to do is going to be a very temporary fix, essentially a Band-Aid for the growth that we're having. That would be up to the architect to determine if it's usable for staff now, if we decide to go that way before it's renovated.
My concern would be that we've spent the money to purchase the property, and we're already having budget constraints, and I just have a concern of spending additional revenue for renovations. If we can use the facilities as is in the meantime until some of these budget constraints are worked out.
Yeah. Do you want to talk?
Go ahead.
Okay. So one of the things with this is I believe we're actually using our financial resources very in a stewardship manner, because what we're doing is by utilizing this house and by potentially renovating it, we're able to significantly cut down on the cost as it would if we were to build a regular building, which would cost interest, which would be much more than it is now. So this is, in my opinion, a well use of our resources to be able to fix an issue that we currently have, which is capacity space.
And then one more question, for this renovation, did we submit that out for bids and get bids from other contractors?
So we're not to that point yet. We still have to go through process whether it's going to be design build, JOC. It's actually in board policy that we have to figure out what we want to do first before we actually go out for RFP to do any of that. Mm-hmm.
All right, next topic is 6C, approval of the RFP for E-rate.
Sir, you are more than welcome to record, but we have a recording area right over here. I just wanted to bring you aware of that. That's one of our board policies. Keep going.
Next is agenda item 6C, discuss and consider approval of RFP for E-rate. Did I miss?
Nope, I just hadn't had a chance to talk through it
All
yet.
right,
So
go for it, sir.
what this is best practice for us to bring forward RFPs once they've been awarded, and to have your board approval for it, much like you do for our purchasing cooperatives that you approve. This was a local request for proposal that was sent out, and so the technology team did decide on a vendor, and so this is just notating you that the vendor was selected, and we're going to utilize that vendor for our E-rate services.
I'll consider a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the RFP for E-rate as presented and recommended.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Terry and a second by Krista. Is there any further questions? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, board.
All right, next is discuss and consider a revision to the Godley ISD policy BE local. Mr. Carnes?
Yes, sir. Good evening, board. So, policy BE local, this would be an update to move regular board meetings from the fourth Monday of each month to the third Monday of each month. And so, due to holidays and events throughout the year, including Thanksgiving, Christmas, end of school, Memorial Day, summer vacations, annual administrative conference in January, a lot of our meetings are moved already anyway. And so the change of policy moving from the fourth to the third would align policy with practice and also allow flexibility, and that if something did happen, you do have a little, little wiggle room at the end of the month if it needed to be moved for that reason. So based on that, we're recommending that BE Local be updated to change fourth Monday to third Monday.
I'll make a motion to approve the revision to the Godley ISD District Policy BE as presented and recommended.
I'll second.
Have a motion by Marissa and a second by Terry. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Passes unanimously. And next, we have 6E, it's a discussion only topic. Discuss a cell phone use proposal for 25-26. Mr. Carnes?
Correct, and so I've invited Mr. Flood to come up here and join me for this. And so first of all, I just wanted to start off by saying you're probably going to have some questions, and I probably don't have the answers because this has not been built yet. So the guidelines and the policies for this have not been built. We have been discussing the benefits of a cell phone restriction policy here at Godley ISD. So the plan is to present information to you tonight on why we think it's a good idea, and then start building and developing guidelines. And so anyway, like I said, we probably won't have a lot of answers for you tonight, but I am going to send each of you an email and allow you to start filtering questions my way, thoughts, things that you would like to see, questions that you might have, so that after Christmas, when we come back in January and start talking about this some more, that we can start answering some of those questions. So by a vote of 36-2, the District Improvement Committee does support and recommend developing and implementing a cell phone restriction policy at Godley ISD. All teachers on the committee voted to support the measure. One parent and one staff member voted against. So there is a presentation, so hopefully should be coming up right here.
Jason, I'm sorry. How many other parents are on that? There's not just one parent on that committee.
No, there's a small handful. Now remember, okay, this is primarily a teacher-driven committee, and so therefore, the actual number. Well, and the other thing too is, I mean, I facilitate the committee. I don't vote, but like I have a student in and so I kind of serve in both. But as just strictly parents that are not employees, I think it's 4. So.
Do you want to answer this after the presentation or before? I'll ask the question. Can you explain the 2 that were opposed, what their reasoning was? I'm just curious why.
Let's see. I think one parent was just anxious, the anxiety of not being able to communicate with their student at any given point in time. Emergencies is always something that comes up. And then it's also, and the other one was a belief that we need to teach kids how to use the phones and how to do it appropriately and how to, so that is something that could also be incorporated into our guidelines and policies, that even starting at a young age, we could start incorporating some of that. We talk about digital citizenship, but growing that to include distraction. You're going to see some pretty interesting information here that Mr. Flood did share with the District Improvement Committee of what our kids are going through. And so anyway, so I think that answered your question. And so Mr. Flood and I will tag team this for you.
Good evening. Thanks for letting me talk for a minute. When I was a sophomore in high school, I remember a question that my history teacher asked: what is the most influential innovation that has ever existed on the planet? We're always like, I don't know, computers or the nuclear bomb or something. And you got us really thinking that the printing press was maybe the most influential, because they started printing the Bible in mass and a lot of things in ways that just alter the way people saw things. If I went back and answered that question today, I think the cell phone would be on the list. The cell phone, the iPhone, was introduced May of 2007, and think of how the world has changed since May of 2007. The junior class is the first group of students that have never lived in the world without their parents having a smartphone or one being around. And the more we go, they don't know what it was like pre-cell phone. We went to a presentation that a guy talked about new technology is not new unless you're around for the old technology. So the microwave to me is not new. If you ask my grandparents, the microwave was a very new invention that changed their world, right? To these kids, it's not. So if you hit the next slide there, these are some of the stats and information on cell phones from leading research companies that are out there. 72% of high school teachers report cell phones are a major distraction in the classroom. The one that gets me the most is the one on the far left. 50% plus of kids get 237 notifications a day. The highest volume get over 4,500 a day. We track some of our classrooms. Most of this is Snapchat, but there are students that get upwards of 2,000 notifications a day. There are 1,440 minutes in a day. If you sleep 8 hours, you're down to 1,000 minutes. If they get 2,000 a day, they're interrupted twice every single minute throughout the day by something. And that is just an interruption in whatever they're doing. So when we talk about their focus and their attention span is shrinking, it's because they're constantly changing what their brain is doing all the time. And our focus here at school is we want them engaged and we want them learning with us. And sometimes these deep thoughts take longer than 1 minute to get in your brain. They take 45 minutes to develop and talk about and discuss. Another one on the far right that really intrigues me is 1/3 of all teens report they've been exposed to pornography during the school day. Back in the day, you had to go to somebody's house or had to know what you were getting into. It's personal to me. One of my children at the lunch table in 6th grade walked up to his buddies all giggling and was exposed to it for the first time in his life because he had no social cues to warn him that's what was going on. And all the wonderful things we put in place to firewall and block it, they get on VPNs and they are like weeds that spring up every day, and they get on their own data, and things just happen that distract the kids. If you'll click the next one. We're going to go a little quick. We have a lot of things we're going to do, and we are going to reach out to parents and get more information from parents as one of our next steps. I have talked to several districts and several principals that have put this in place. Every one of them says it's one of the best decisions they ever did for their campus, but they did a lot of things to talk to other people, to talk about how they work. Preteens spend around 40 hours a week on their phones for screen-based leisure activity. 13 to 18-year-olds, which is middle school and high school kids, spend around 50 hours per week. 1/3 report almost constantly being on their phone. And when you think about that, what almost constantly means, the next slide, they are thinking about it all the time. So they spend around 16 hours per day in which they are not fully present in whatever is going on around them. They're just distracted all the time thinking about something else. I'm not saying that kids shouldn't have phones, and I understand phones are here, and I have kids, and I'm a parent too. I've got a junior and an 8th grader. But I'm saying while they're here at school, we will keep them safe, and we can keep them safe. And we understand the anxiety, but they're here at school, and it happened when I was a kid, and it happened when my parents were there, like we knew where they were, and we will still let people communicate with their parents. We're not stopping that. We have phones in every classroom. We have options. But if we can get them to be here with us and not always on their phone or somewhere else, we get a lot more done, I think, in engaging them and teaching them and interacting socially with each other in ways that we should, instead of just getting on our screen and not talking with each other anymore. The next one, some of the struggles we've had here at the high school, just to let you know on the inside a little bit: refusal to give phones to a teacher. Students take pictures of other ones and post it on Snapchat without permission or their knowledge. That is generally in a negative light. Students will have parents on speaker at any time during the school day, just to hear what's going on or to talk to them or to whatever. Video recordings of fights is a really popular thing. Houston ISD, this was the sole reason they went to restricting phones, was they're trying to limit fights in their campuses. A fight breaks out, kids get out their phone. They record everything. Black Panther put it in a really good light when they showed that movie of the world is watching when he was going to get in a fight, because that's the way kids operate now. If something interesting is going on, they pop out their phone and they record, or they take photos, or they whatever, and then they blast it everywhere. Fake Instagram profiles asking for nude photos or wanting to fight are often sent around campus that our APs are having to investigate and try to figure out. And then threats of violence to school and people. We know at the beginning of this year the high school had a threat that happened. I want to talk a little bit about how that one happened for a minute. So the next slide. So there was a threat posted in Godley ISD under a fake account, which turned out to be one of our students. We were able to find them and discipline them accordingly. But students on their Instagram have it flagged that if there's the word gun, shooting, or school, it notifies them wherever they are in the world. The next threat that came in was from Los Angeles because a child had that flagged, created a fake account that looked identical to the one that was here, posted it. We were able to actually, Chief Quinteros did a lot of hard work to get Instagram to give us that information. The LA County Sheriff went out and talked to that person and was like, yeah, we're not going to do anything about it. But they're out in LA. I mean, there's nothing we can do. They're in California. So it's really hard. I talked to a police officer in Burleson that most of their threats come from other states, on the East Coast, West Coast, anywhere. It's not locally in town because people just track these things and see where it's going, and then they'll just copycat behavior. And most of that is because they just want attention. They want likes, they want follows, they want people to know them, they want to be influencers. So they're looking for attention is what they're looking for. So those are some struggles we had here at Godley High School. I'll let Mr. Carnes talk about some of the benefits that have been reported from companies that have, there's levels of cell phone restrictions. There's off from bell to bell. There's locker systems where you lock them up and keep them away from you all day. There's bags where you can lock them up and put them away. There's different levels, but I'll let Mr. Carnes talk a little bit about the benefits.
Okay, so, and as Mr. Flood mentioned, having children in the district as well. My youngest son will be a senior next year, and so he's been, of course, like, Dad, couldn't you just wait one more year? And so it's always the right time to do the right thing. And so the benefits are many. Fewer distractions, and I won't read all of the small print, but fewer distractions, less cyberbullying, fewer fights and social media related drama, as Mr. Flood mentioned, increased engagement and attendance, efficiency, more reading, improved teacher morale and retention, less mid-class absenteeism, more vibrant lunchrooms. That's been something that's been interesting for those that have done it, is they report when you walk into a cafeteria now, you look down, you see kids with their heads down. Schools that have this, have a policy in place, kids are actually talking and having conversations and learning social skills. Less cheating, and then less reported stress, actually, among students. So on the next slide, there's different ways of going about it, and Yonder is, they have these pouches that students put their phones in. And so this information came from them. So when schools become cell phone free, 83% saw an improvement in student engagement in the classroom, 74% saw improvement in student behavior, and 65% saw an improvement in academic performance.
So some of the schools I talked to in this area, La Vega High School, which is a suburb of Waco, they have instituted this policy with the Yonder bags, and this is their discipline data from when they instituted it. You can see their discipline tracking from 21-22 reporting period 1 all the way to 22-23, and then that far right, that very big drop, is when they instituted the cell phone policy in 23-24. Their discipline just tanked completely. I talked to Abilene Wiley High School. They also implemented one, and their principal talked about they had a party happen on a weekend, and some kids videoed 2 kids doing things that normally they would have heard about on Monday, right when they came back to school. They didn't hear about it for 7 days because that shock and awe of everybody posting it and seeing the reaction wasn't in school because the phones weren't present. So that drama kind of died off for a while, and the school didn't have to deal with it. It all happened outside of school. It wasn't in-house. It happened outside, but that stuff comes in the schoolhouse all the time with gossip and drama. And then finally on the next one, our own counselors, we have kids that have big hearts and they have deep emotions and they love each other a ton. But sometimes it's over and it's time to break up with boyfriend or girlfriend. When those things happen here at school, they end up in the counselor's office, a bundle of emotions, crying and upset, rightfully so. We understand that. It hurts when he or she breaks up with you. But for 2.5 hours missing classroom instruction because they did it over the phone that you read right before you went into math class, makes it really hard to come back to class. Whereas if you do that after school, you know, at 4:30 or at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and you can do that at home, and you can go in and talk with mom or dad, and, oh, he said he loved me, but it's over. You know, those things are natural and normal. But in the schoolhouse, it's really hard, and our counselors are spending their time consoling, you know, grieving teens over the breakup of their relationship when they've really got a lot of other things to do than spending 2 hours like, it's okay, this is natural, this is normal. It's a big deal now, we get that, but it won't be later on in life. You'll learn from this. And so we want to just free up the time our counselors spend as well from all the mental health counseling that they're doing and things like that to focus on the academics and the classrooms and the systems and the ways to improve what our kids are learning here and there.
So one thing's for certain, we are not alone in this. I did a search for schools and different places that have policies in place. I won't read all of those, but you can see numerous schools. I tried to find, I know there's a lot more, but this is what I was able to find in a timely manner. States, as you can see, there are numerous states across the United States that already have different, and they're not all the same, but they have something in place to restrict cell phones. And then countries around the world, you can see that there are numerous, and some of them have been going for quite some time. So additionally, we know that there was a bill filed in the 88th legislative session. We know there was a bill filed there. It didn't go anywhere. But since then, TEA Commissioner Mike Morath has called for policies to restrict cell phones in public schools and said that if it was in his power, he would have already done it by now. So we do anticipate another attempt in this session for a state cell phone policy plan, something. Typically, well, and one, I'm not counting, I've learned not to count on the legislature to do something. So with that, this is why we want to go ahead and still work on our guidelines and procedures and develop a plan. Secondly, most of the time, or a lot of the time I should say, when they put something like this in place, they say the school will develop a plan. So we would certainly be ahead. If they put something in place, then we would be ahead of the curve. So next steps for direction that we're headed with this is a campus staff survey, student survey, parent survey, and then a parent presentation, committee for feedback, and then work on developing policies and procedures. So we just wanted to give you some insight as to where we've been, where we want to go, some of the information as to why we're thinking about this, why we believe it's a good idea. And so like I said at the beginning, I will send you an email with an avenue to start funneling in some questions, because you'll probably think of them, all kinds of questions between now and the next time we meet. So with that, that's the end of our presentation. Are there any questions you might have at this moment?
I have a question. Go ahead, Kayla.
Oh, thank you. So my question, a follow-up with what Ms. Mabry said, I was interested in knowing what the reasons were for the two people in the committee that voted no for this, and also will the board have the opportunity to see the parent and staff
Certainly.
and survey to see those results of what the community thinks about this before we vote on it?
Certainly.
And then also, I'm all for limiting technology. There's tons of data that backs up how distracting it is, and also that students learn better with pen and paper. My concern, and I want to make sure, is the district having conversations about the Chromebooks that students use. My fear is that we take away the cell phones and then they fill that time with Chromebooks and they're still on technology. So are we thinking about that? If their Chromebooks have internet access and all of that, I just don't want to have a second problem.
Correct. And yes, that will be part of it. And yes, students here do have access to their Chromebooks. The other piece of that too is that those are logged on through the district's Wi-Fi, and with that there's some different restrictions and logging of what they're doing what they're searching and things of that nature. So there are some added securities and protections there.
Okay, thanks.
And I don't think those Chromebooks have capability to video or take pictures.
Actually, I think they might. Yes.
Do they?
Yes.
My question was related to a time frame or timeline. I mean, do you expect to have this implemented by the start of the school year or prior to?
Correct. Well, we would like to have it prior to the 25-26 school year so that we can have plenty of time for communication. And here's the plan, and we don't want to drop this on August 5th and school starts August 7th, or, you know, I'm making those dates up. I don't remember off the top of my head, but we want to be timely with this and communicate all so that everybody's in the know well in advance of school starting.
So I would like to share real quick. So I have my 16-year-old sophomore. This was last year, his freshman year. I had many years. We had many years where we had academic issues. We had behavior issues. I took his phone, locked it away in my room for 2 months, 2 solid months. I saw the best behavior, the best academic performance I have ever seen since he's been in school. Okay? So, but as a parent, all parents have that right. So, but what I'm getting at is I learned firsthand how effective that was. So my question kind of becomes, I mean, if we're doing what's in the best interest of these students, I mean, this seems like a lot of steps, like all these surveys and stuff. Like, why can't we just implement a program to remove cell phones or restrict cell phones and be done with it?
Because it's just a big step, and we want to make sure we get as much community buy-in and feedback and information with our community as possible.
Okay,
yes, sir.
that makes
And
sense.
certainly there could be some things that we haven't thought of that we want to consider. And then I know that some of the schools that Mr. Flood has spoken with specifically, these were some of the steps that they took and were effective.
So the second part of my question was, you mentioned a vendor. There was a vendor early on about
Yonder. Y-O-N-D-R. Yeah.
Okay, but we don't have to use a vendor. Okay.
And that'll be part of what we have to figure out.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Again, these were just early conversations. We just wanted to be transparent and keep you guys in the loop. You know, the big work's going to start next spring. We just wanted to make sure you guys kind of knew where we were.
Might I make a suggestion? It's just an idea I had. We are.
Perfect timing.
Were you
Emergency
distracted?
bypass. Don't you love it? It's a kid. So, what was I saying? Okay, yes. Just us having this presentation today, and it's going to be on, you know, we do our live feed. We have parents that like to watch our meetings afterwards. We're going to already have a lot of parents that have things that they want to say and share and ideas and maybe positives, maybe negatives or whatever. Can we set up some sort of, you know how we used to have or we probably still do have the Ask GISD, or like, you know, the way that we submit all of our stuff when we're registering for school and we send it to just like the campus email. Would there be a way to like create an email where parents can go ahead and send an email to this email address so that you can start kind of collecting all of those things? Because what I'm afraid is going to happen is that all of our campus principals and the teachers and like the parents are going to go to the first person that they see and they're going to start talking about it, and that person may not have the information. And that's not going to be the best way to get their opinion or their questions to the people who are going to be gathering them. Is there some way we can advertise to our community, to our parents, even to our students, that if you have a really big thought on this, send your thought to here?
So, Krista, do we not already have a Ask Godley ISD set up so that questions can be funneled through there?
I didn't want to inundate that. If that's what you guys decide, it's just an idea. Because as soon as the word gets out that we even heard a presentation on this tonight, there are going to be some people that have questions or strong feelings.
The kids know.
And that's why I brought it up. I felt like that you're going to open up so many differences of opinions when we're charged with doing what's best and what's in the best interest. So, I mean, people may not like hearing the fact that I don't care what, like I want to do what's best for the school academically and for these kids, and I really don't care who agrees with it or doesn't. Like that's what I feel like our job is.
Yeah, I'll add, like, a lot of the kids know because we've been talking about it, and like Ms. Brooks has done great, like tracking their notifications in class and starting discussions. Kids know. What's funny is in my principal advisory committee that I created, I asked all of them the same question in the interview: what's something we could do at Godley High School to make it better? And 4 of them, without any prompting, said get rid of the phones today. Like, they already know, they're self-aware, a lot of them, of their own behavior. And so it's out there. Kids know, they're talking about it, but they didn't blow up the school or anything and go crazy with it. They just started talking about it a little bit, and they're just having conversations. They talk to their teachers. They talk to us, and it's gone really peacefully. I was afraid when it got out they'd all, whew, but they didn't. They're kind of aware. So yeah, I understand.
I'm sure y'all have a ton of ideas and things, but Miss Brooks teaches a lot of the, like, look somebody in the eye and shake their hand, right? Like, I don't remember what her class name is, but it's a very much like a life skills kind of thing. And you mentioned in the presentation about, like, the phone etiquette, essentially, or whatever. And so I'm just thinking, too, like, if this becomes a thing, that is something in her program. It's like, okay, for 10 minutes of your day, if you, I don't know that I'm turning it on, but I'm going to do that. Anyway, I'm just thinking of different incentives, things. We're always trying to get kids to come to school, to be engaged, to do the things. So, I mean, we can also turn it and try and put some type of positive and incentivized type thing with it too. Like, okay, we're taking it away for your best interest here, but we'll also give some wiggle room, and, at some point you get 10 minutes a day. I don't know.
Well, and so part of the
anyway.
consideration is that one of the little things that we did talk about was there are times that it can be approved. So a pep rally, for example, the homecoming parade. That's after school, but I'm just thinking around some major events. That was one of the things to record some of those things or take pictures of their them and their friends. So or activities in class that a phone might lend itself well to whatever activity they're doing. So that could be something that could be approved for use during that time. So certainly a lot of things to figure out, and we're excited to do this work and bring more back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Carnes. Good discussion. I'm sure we will have more.
Yes.
We're going to move on to the next agenda item, 6F. Discuss, consider District of Innovation Amendment for retire/rehire.
Okay, so this is the second reading of this. So currently, the District of Innovation Amendment for retire/rehires was approved by the District Improvement Committee 31-1. So currently, all districts, when hiring a retired teacher, must pay their salary based on the TEA minimum pay scale, and then additionally, districts are required to pay a TRS surcharge and, if applicable, a TRS care surcharge. So I want to be clear on this too, so that in addition to drawing a salary, retires are also drawing their TRS retirement. So they're getting paid from 2 different entities there, the district and TEA through TRS. So this proposed amendment will only apply to retired teachers hired from this point forward, to be clear. So grandfathered in. We do have 3 retirees currently working for the district that this would not affect. So this, by approving this as well, it does give us an additional pool of candidates to be able to hire from, because there are many districts that won't hire retired teachers because of the penalties. And so a few other schools in our area with this amendment include Stephenville, Grandview, Granbury, Rio Vista, Brock, Lipan, and Poolville. There's almost 1,000 districts of innovation across the state, and there's no good way to search them all. So I did spend some time and found a few. I know that there's many more, but those were just a few in our area. So anyway,
I make a motion to approve the amendment to Godley ISD's District of Innovation Plan regarding retire/rehire as presented and recommended.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Jeff and a second by Marissa. Any further questions?
I have a question slash concern. I know I shared this
Mhm.
at the last meeting, but of course we want to make sure that our teachers are being paid adequately. And so I just personally have concerns with paying retired teachers below the TDA minimum pay scale. I just want to make sure that these retired teachers are being paid adequately.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? I didn't catch this end. And opposed? Motion passes 6-1. Next, we will discuss and consider District of Innovation Amendment, TEC. I'm not going to read that. We will leave it. I'll hand it to you, Mr. Barnes.
Okay. All right. So the Texas Education Code allows a school administrator, school resource officer, or school district peace officer to refuse to allow a person to enter on or may eject a person from a district property if the person refuses to leave peaceably on request, and either the person poses a substantial risk of harm to any person or the person behaves in a manner that is inappropriate for a school setting and persists in the behavior despite being given a verbal warning. Under current law, the administrator, resource officer, or peace officer must maintain a record of, sorry, I lost my spot there. Maintain a record of each verbal warning of potential removal from a school facility that is issued, including the name of the person to whom the warning was issued and the date of issuance. At the time a person is refused entry to or rejected from a school district's property, the district shall provide to the person written information explaining the appeal process, and under the commissioner's rules, the person refused entry or rejected the facility must be given the opportunity to appeal the decision to the Board of Trustees within 90 calendar days. So these additional administratively burdensome requirements are impractical and potentially impossible to fulfill when an individual is dealing with an unruly individual. So having had to remove people from a basketball game, it's never fun, and it can get heated, and and this includes if the referees throw someone out from a game, and so trying to talk to them and get their information, and here's some information for you, and or even finding that it becomes a little complicated, and additionally can escalate the situation. So it's impractical to provide the written notice of an appeal process at many events, like athletic events or public meetings, when the removal is only for the immediate event and there is not access to forms or a computer printer. And so furthermore, the district already has a process for taking grievances to the Board of Trustees, and there's no justified need for a unique process or timeline. So GISD administrators, school resource officers, or school peace officers will retain their authority to refuse to allow a person to enter on or may eject a person from district property if the person refuses to leave peaceably, or the person poses a substantial risk of harm to any person, or the person behaves in a manner that is inappropriate for a school setting and persists in the behavior despite being given a verbal warning. So, however, the following requirements would no longer be applicable: maintaining a written log of warnings, providing written notice of the appeal process at the time of ejection, internet posting of the requirements and appeal process, and the ability to appeal the decision to the Board of Trustees within 90 calendar days. So exemption from these requirements will allow the district to exercise appropriate authority and processes related to unruly individuals on campuses and at other facilities effectively and efficiently, but do so without conducting the unnecessary and administratively burdensome requirements and avoiding potential escalation of already difficult situations. If an individual is banned from returning to GISD property for an extended period of time, that individual will receive written notification. Some other schools in our area that have this amendment include Northwest, Keller, Eagle Mountain, Saginaw, Alvarado, Birdville, Brock, Burleson, Kennedale, and Peaster. This amendment was taken to the District Improvement Committee and was approved unanimously to bring to you. And so it is the administration's recommendation that this be approved as recommended.
So as we were researching to see what other ISDs had the DOI amendment about the TRS penalty, retire penalty, we kept coming across this. And we were primarily thinking of this for sporting events, for this amendment. We rarely have to eject people from a game, but it happens a lot more often than you'd think. This year we had to eject some non-Godley students from a football game because they were there causing trouble with our students. And when we asked them to leave, they just took off running. So I'm pretty sure we weren't able to give them documentation about how they could appeal the process. So we're breaking the breaking our protocol right there. So and that's just one example. As we host football games, we don't, we've got 2 visiting teams and we don't know who anybody is. We had an instance situation one time this year where I think just someone came in to watch the game and he didn't agree with the ref's call. Well, he was sitting on the wrong sidelines to disagree with that ref's call, and we had to almost break up a fight because the people around him took exception. And that's just a couple examples, but this would make it easier, safer on our administrators if that does happen. Now, as best practice, we're going to continue to give verbal warnings. We'll continue to keep a verbal warning log to the best of our ability. I mean, if we don't know who they are and they take off, we're not going to keep it. To communicate the appeal process as long as that doesn't escalate the situation. But we don't want to be breaking our own policy when we aren't able to fulfill those. I also want to repeat that this was voted unanimously to approve out of the DEIC. And like Jason said, we recommend to approve.
I have some concerns with this policy change. I know that Dr. Deere is saying that we're going to continue to try to give the log of, or have the log of verbal warnings and notify of the appeal process, but if our policy states that we don't have to do that, I have major concerns with taking away the log of these warnings, and then also the purpose in the law to allow a member of the public to appeal to the board within 90 days is because this is a more severe issue than many other grievances, and so it allows them to be able to appeal that in a shorter amount of time than a standard grievance process could take. Also, the verbiage inappropriate for a school setting is extremely subjective, and with the recent uptick in letters being sent out to citizens after school board meetings, I have major concerns with this policy change and the possible infringement that it could have on citizens' First Amendment rights. And I do not support this change, and I would recommend that we continue keeping the log of verbal warnings, allowing them this 90-day appeal process to the board, and also notifying them of that appeal process.
All right, so I was going to do similar to what I did previously and open up for some dialogue. So I will walk down the row since Kayla started the process. Jeff, do you any comments that you care to make? If not, I'm not asking for extended dialogue, but if you have an opinion or reword, if you have a point of discussion, I'm open to
and maybe
hear.
I'm missing the impact of these changes. But from what I understand, we still can keep a log.
Correct.
We still have the ability to do that when we're able to. In scenarios where you gave several examples. In those scenarios, you wouldn't be able to give a log, so that makes sense to me. But secondly, the appeal. Maybe I'm lost. I don't understand this appeal process that Kayla referred to. Can somebody clarify that for me?
So before we get into it, it's the appeal process that we have documented. That is standard per policy. Again, process is there, but as Dr. Deere said, obviously if somebody's decided they're going to vacate the premises, you can't chase them down and go, here's your appeal process if you don't like it.
But they don't lose the right to.
No, they do not.
So then I don't.
Correct.
The policy says you have to give it to them at the time of the occurrence.
So they can still appeal. They can still have a grievance.
Yes, they can.
They still.
No
That's what I
change.
thought. I assumed all those.
Yep.
They still have rights for all
Still
that.
remain in place. That's
Okay.
accurate.
That's right.
Okay.
Answer that really fast. So
Yep.
the
So-
standard grievance process.
Keep it short. So I want to hear the rest of them.
Okay.
No, I wasn't cutting you off. I was meaning keep your answer short. I want to hear from everybody else.
So that as someone who has gone through the grievance process, there's levels. There's level 1, there's level 2, there's level 3. Sometimes going to that level 3 can take up to 6 months, just the way that the grievance process goes.
But this doesn't have anything to do with that.
Well, it's saying
That's
that
correct.
we no longer are going to allow them to appeal to the board, which would be level 3 in the grievance process, within 90 days. So if we get rid of that, it could take 6 months for them to be able to appeal to the board.
But it could take 6 months either way, with the policy or without it,
Not
right?
according to state law, we have to hear that within 90 days if they want to appeal.
Okay,
That's a
so
concern of mine.
let's have that as a point of a question on how that would be handled for Mr. Carnes. Thank you. Anything else? Terry, any questions, comments? Marissa?
I would just like to say that for my own personal thoughts, I would like to see us keep at the best of our ability a verbal warning log, and I feel like we would. Obviously, to your point, you eject someone from a basketball game and they leave, storm away. You can't keep a verbal log unless you just personally know that person. So I understand that point. I know that it would be impossible for us to say that we are always or are not, but could we word that to where it's to the best of our ability we would keep a verbal log, just for accountability purposes?
And this was a question from the DEIC as well, and we affirmed them in that our intent would be, because sometimes these are, Godley has grown now to where we don't know everybody anymore, and I can tell you that there have been people that have given us fake names. There's also visitors from that have gotten behind the scoreboard and started shouting obscenities at our people keeping the books, for example. And they were asked to leave due to that behavior. And so capturing their information and getting all that is not necessarily very easy. So certainly our intent is to keep a record of who we're giving this to, but it's just not always practical. And so, and then most of the time too, these are, when you remove somebody from a basketball game, for example, and I choose basketball because basketball can get crazy. So, right,
We've all been there.
Right, yeah. So, but with that, I mean, it's typically one game and we'll see you on Friday. It's just, it got heated and you need to go tonight. But in the event that it is something longer, then certainly there's written notification, and that's stated in here, written notification and correspondence regarding that.
Okay, I'm good there.
So I kind of agree, or I do agree, I don't kind of agree, with Marissa, that the verbiage needs to state that to the best of our ability, if circumstances are under our control that we can follow this, then we're going to. The verbal log, the, allowing them their grievance, or giving them the information on how they can grieve. But just saying that that's going to be our intent, I'm not as comfortable with. So if we could find some verbiage that will make it clear that to the best of our ability, in circumstances under our control, we are going to offer these things, because that's the whole point of this, is just to cover us when things aren't under our control and we aren't able to chase down the person that's running off. So I hate to see a change made giving us too much leeway. Then
I agree.
We'll include that in there.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I forgot we were sharing.
That's okay.
Simone, any further?
And I mean, I'm just gonna reiterate, I agree with Marissa and Krista, that I would like that verbiage in there as well. And I mean, I think it's really hard to have the argument about, language being subjective to the person as to whether it's offensive or not. I've kind of made this point once before, and I just want to make it on record as well. Like, the way I speak at home or other people speak at home may not align with how someone else speaks at home, but in public, when children are involved, like, we all know how to use our words appropriately. So I take I take issue with that being someone's issue. Well, how do you, what's offensive? Well, I mean, there's like TV rated language, you know what I mean?
Would you say it in front of a room of kindergartners?
So that's my point to that, is I mean, I feel like if we're here to, as Jeff has said, be in the best interest of students and protect the children, like, I'm sorry, I think it's our discretion to determine if the language and the intensity of the language is not what we're okay with. So I'm fine with that, but yeah.
Thank you. All right, I think we have a recommendation. I think we have had some discussion. I will consider a motion.
Can we, do you want to say that since you said that?
Are we able to table until we see the rewritten, like to see it written out to include the verbiage that we discussed?
We can.
Or can we make the motion with?
Just make the motion with the
Motion
verbiage, yes.
with the
And
added changes.
it'll be in there.
You make it and then I'll second it and maybe he'll put me down.
I like the way you said it better than me, so you just make it.
I don't have my
This one?
glasses on.
Okay. All right.
I make a motion to approve the amendment to Godley ISD's District of Innovation Plan regarding Texas Education Code 37.105 GKA Legal and GKA Local as discussed with the changes requested by board members during the meeting.
I'll second.
Have a motion by Krista and a second by Simone. Any further discussion? All those in favor? And opposed? Passes 6-1. Thank you. Next, we have the third review and consideration for approval of the Godley ISD Campus Improvement Plan.
Yes,
Dr.
here I
Cobb.
am. I'm just going to come back and say we haven't made any changes since last month. If there were any other questions, I hadn't received any questions. So I am just here to make a recommendation that we approve the campus improvement plans as presented. As always, they are living documents, so as we make progress, if we need to extend a goal or something like that, we can do that. But my recommendation is to approve the campus improvement plans as presented the last 2 months.
Okay. I will consider a motion. However, double check your wording before you read.
I will make a motion to approve the amendment to.
Nope.
That's the previous one. To approve the Godley ISD campus improvement plans for the 2024-2025 school year. Thank you, Craig.
I'll second.
Have a motion by Marissa and a second by Terry. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Board.
And next is a information/discussion only, and that's the review the Godley ISD Board Operating Procedures.
Yes.
Before we get into that, this is a yearly activity that we as a board review our operating procedures. The intent here is, since this is discussion only, is for us to be able to have plenty of time to review and then bring back for any potential updates or amendments at a future board meeting. So,
Yes, Board. So we've provided the operating procedures to you. I'd rather you not give me input now because I don't want to write it down incorrectly. I'll email all of you so I can get exact wording or feedback or anything from you, and then we'll talk about it and bring it and talk about it at a future board meeting. So information only.
okay. And I had an interruption. Yes, sir. Please proceed to the mic.
With respect to what you just passed here, the rules of conduct I'm totally in agreement with. But what hasn't been addressed is, are you going to consider to send indifferent letters out to people for just speaking and maybe not saying exactly what you want to hear. I haven't heard this addressed tonight. I mean, like I said, if you knew me and read the ugly words that were put into my letter, you wouldn't want to receive
Mr.
it.
Svensson, I already addressed that once. You are, I believe,
Oh, no,
are trying
but
to
you have
address
not addressed
your
that issue. It
grievance.
was under the
You're trying to
same
address your grievance. I will not allow the address of your grievance here in public at this point in time. There's a process. You're aware of the
It
process.
wasn't mine. I
So I'm
said it
not-
in order of all
Okay,
letters.
thank you, sir.
Okay,
I
so you're
appreciate
going to
the input.
continue with them, right?
Thank you, sir. All right, and
I have a question, for the board operating procedures.
yes,
Dr. Deere mentioned that we received those. I didn't see them in our board book.
no?
So am I missing it because it was not in the board book?
He said, I think he said
He
you
was
were gonna
gonna
send
email
them, or
It was.
Okay,
They weren't board book. Okay, we'll email those to you tomorrow. Yes, ma'am.
yes. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, we will proceed to closed session at 7:26. Discussion, let me read the section number 551.074, discussing personnel and to hear complaints against personnel. 551.076, considering the deployment, specific occasions for, or implementation of security personnel or devices. Is 7:56. We will reconvene in open. I'll consider a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the items discussed in closed session about campus safety and security.
I'll second.
Have a motion by Marissa. I'm sorry, a motion by Terry and a second by Marissa. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
I'll second.